back to The Unleashing. I'm your host, Jared Beeler. I want to talk about Gog and Magog today and the difference between Ezekiels Gog and Magog and Revelation's Gog and Magog. I want to straighten up a few things here and point out the importance of it and why we should be looking for this right now because of end-time events taking place. Israel's 70 years coming up with their generation when they first saw us, when they signed their treaty back in 1948, and some other things that are taking place at this time. But I want to separate this out, kind of talk about a few things. Gog and Magog is a battle that takes place, we believe, possibly prior to the tribulation and the rapture, right? Whether it's around the same time or maybe the start, I don't know. But when we see it take place, there's been a lot of speculation for many years that this was going to be a precursor to the tribulation, right? And we're going to point out those reasons why here. But Psalm 83 is another war too. And there's been preachers, pastors, and stuff that have talked about this for a while and said, oh, this has got to take place first and then we'll see the Gog and Magog war, but we'll see it happen first. I do not believe that. I want to point that out right now. I think that the Psalm 83 war actually happened in the Six-Day War back in 67, all right? I'm going to read a little verse here real fast and point this out. Psalm 83, 6 through 8. The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites, Moab, Hagarians, Jabal, Ammon, Amalek, and the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Ashur also is joined with them. They have Holpen and children of Lot. Okay? When we break this down and look at it, where those nations were back then, back in the biblical times, we find out these are the same nations that attacked during Israel's Six-Day War when they had when they went to battle and they won. Okay, I personally believe this has already taken place. Another thing is Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and stuff came against them during the Six-Day War. During Gog and Magog war, they fight some other people, and as of right now, they're friends with Egypt and Saudi Arabia. Israel is talking about doing a strike on Iran with Saudi Arabia. So that wouldn't fit in, or it's not lined up right now for the Psalm 83 war to take place. What it is, it's lined up for Gog and Magog. So what happened to Psalm 83? I believe that it was already taken place, and it happened during the Six-Day War. And that's interesting because that just pushes us even closer to the end here that we're looking for. And that's encouraging for those who are looking to go home and get out of here and go to heaven. So anyways, I wanted to point that out first and why I think that. But one of the things I heard recently from Paul Begley is Iran is even declaring this skirmish that has gone from proxy wars and them hiring Hezbollah and stuff to attack Israel. They're actually fighting each other now, doing strikes on each other. And Iran has declared that this war is the Ezekiel war. Now, I find that interesting because you can read the Bible too, and it says that they get their backside handed to them during this skirmish. But do we see anything different? We know the Illuminati and stuff, if you guys have ever heard any insiders, they use the Bible as a script book on what they're going to do next for like play moves and stuff. And it's interesting because if they read to the end, they get destroyed too. Yet they still follow. They think that they're somehow going to win in the end. So it's very interesting that evil can say stuff like that and yet be deceived and not even see that this thing that they're reading says that they lose and they're still going along with it. It is slightly humorous, all right? Okay, let's talk about the Gog and Magog war here. Let's come up with some points here that I have written down and some scripture. I'm going to talk about why Ezekiel 38, 39, Gog and Magog war is different from the one that happens in Revelations, why they're not the same one, and why it's completely two separate events, okay? One of the things in Ezekiel is, I'm going to read it, chapter 38, verse 11. And thou shalt say, I will go up in the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, and all of them dwelling without walls, having neither bars nor gates. Okay? This is part of the Ezekiel 38 war. One of the things here is it says they'll go up to where they're safely dwelling. When we break this down from what I've seen into the Hebrew translation, it is the word batach. And it translates into confidently. And I think that that fits perfectly with the Israel state that we see right now. It's not that it's safe, it's that they are confident. They're confident in their defenses, being able to defend themselves and fight. And I think that that really, really matches up the state that we see it in right now. So I wanted to point that out and make that point. Okay. During Ezekiel 38 and 39, it talks about this war that takes place. But the chapters following immediately after, during this, shows Ezekiel what the millennial reign is going to be like, what the temple's going to look like. He has it measured out and stuff. And during this time, what it's going to be like. When Revelations Gog and Magog happens, right after the enemies get destroyed, God comes down and earth and heaven become one, it says, and we go into an eternal state. Because of this, these are clearly two separate events. One has a long timeline with temples and stuff, while the other is everything's done away with, we're about to start completely new again. In Ezekiel, we have this coalition army that's Russian and Islamic. Well, it looks like Russian anyways. Maybe it's Turkey or whatever. It says it comes from the north, okay? But it looks like it's Russian and Islamic. And they come down to fight Israel. While in Revelations, instead of an army with Russia and Islamic nations, it says it's led by Satan, okay? I think that points out right there that these are two separate events. We know Satan's wrath at the end of Revelations. He's let loose to see the nations one more time, and he's leading this army this time that's going to come against Israel. Okay. In Ezekiel, it says that the invaders, they come from the north, okay? Russia's north of them, Iran, stuff like that, and they come from the north, of course, with this battles going on with Syria. That makes perfect sense, and with Golan and stuff like that, okay? Whereas in Revelations, it says that they're drawn from the four corners of the earth. It's not coming down from the north, it's coming from four corners of the earth. Which means, it means they're coming from all parts of the earth, okay? All right. In Ezekiel, this battle, it happens on the mountains, it says. All right, I'm going to read that real fast here. Ezekiel 38:8. After many days thou shalt be visited, in the latter days thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword, and is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste, but it is brought forth out of the nation, and they shall dwell safely in them, okay? All right, this happens in the mountains. And there's mountains around Israel and stuff like that. Let's look at another one here. 39:2. And I will turn thee back and leave but a sixth part of thee, and will cause thee to come up from the north parts, and will bring thee upon the mountains of Israel. Okay? Now, this is the Gog and Magog war in Ezekiel. In Revelations, we have, let's take a look here. Revelations 29. And they went up on the breadth of the earth, and compassed the camp of the saints about in the beloved city, and fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them, okay? Here we have this army not coming from the north, but they're on or not on the mountains, but they're on the broad plain of the earth, okay? This battle that takes place, I think it's more spread out or something like that. That's what it kind of looks like. I think that points to it being something that's a lot different than the Ezekiel battle, okay? In Ezekiel 38:12, what's to take spoil and to take prey, to turn thy hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle, goods that dwell in the midst of the land. All right, this gathering out of the nations is exactly what's happened since 1948 when they started coming back to their homeland. Okay, during Revelations, they are not being gathered to come to Israel or anything like that. They've already been there for 1,000 years. It's their homeland now. They have a lot more land. When Israel gets what actually belongs to them, what promise from God, they've got parts of Gaza, maybe Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, parts of Iraq. It's huge. They have way more than they have right now. So they end up getting a lot more. But this returning that it talks about, where they're gathered from all other nations, and they have cattle and stuff, they've come back, and I've heard some interesting things, that it was basically a wasteland before they came back, but since they've been there, they've got trees growing again and all kinds of other stuff, and it's really, the land's been blessed by God, of course, wherever his people go. So this is really interesting. Two different times that it's talking about here, okay? In Ezekiel 39:2, and I will turn thee back and leave but a sixth part of thee, and will cause thee to come up from the north parts and bring thee upon the mountains of Israel. Okay, we talked about the mountains already, but the point I want to point out here is that I will leave but a sixth part of thee. Okay, God destroys this army in this Gog and Magog war in Ezekiel. 5/6 of it totally gets handed out, and he only leaves 1/6 of it. All right. A sixth part that it says in Ezekiel 39:2, all right? In Revelations, when we have that Gog and Magog war, nobody's left. They're instantly incinerated, every single one. And then they go to the white throne judgment right after, okay? Because that's going to be the final judgment. There is nobody that gets left. Now this is a really, really good point here. This really points to this being two completely separate battles that take place. It's not talking about one. There would not be any evil left at the end when God's about to do the eternal state. That's the end of the test. This right here points it out, I think, perfectly, and so that nobody can get mixed up that this is one of the same battle. The Gog and Magog war happens at the end of the millennial reign. These are two separate wars that take place, okay? In Ezekiel's timeline here, we're reading chapter 36 through 39. Israel's become a nation again. It's been drawn back from its four corners and stuff of the earth, where it's been put in other nations. But they get brought back. But when they do during this time, they're learning to put their faith in God and stuff like that, but they have not put their faith in the Messiah yet, all right? In Revelations, the Jews have already been physically reigning with Jesus the whole time. They know who he is and stuff, all right? And it talks about that during the chapters after Ezekiel 38 through 39, when they start to get the temple and stuff like that, okay? This Messiah is going to be reigning with them, and he's going to start to after this battle happens, where he's already been with them the whole time during Revelations, okay? These are two different timelines. In Ezekiel, Israel spends, after the battle, 7 months burying the bodies, okay? And it says in Ezekiel 39:11 through 12, let's check it out here. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will give unto Gog a place there of graves in Israel, the valley of passengers on the top, on the east, sorry, not on the top, on the east of the sea, and it shall stop the noses of passengers, and there shall they bury Gog and all his multitude, and they shall call the valley of Hamagog. And 7 months shall the house of Israel be burying them, and they may cleanse the land, okay? Now, this takes place for 7 months. After the battle's over, there's tons of dead bodies, all right? And this says it takes place east of the sea. It's talking about the Dead Sea. This is in Jordan. They don't have Jordan right now, but after this war, they might have more parts of it. And Petra is in Jordan, where a lot of people believe that the Jews are going to flee after the second part of the tribulation. So this hasn't yet taken place. It looks like they're going to get some more land here. But anyways, this valley is east, and it's in Jordan, and Valley of Passengers, and they bury them for 7 months, okay? In Revelations, nobody's getting buried. Everybody gets incinerated instantly, okay? No, there's no buriage or anything like that. God comes down, throws on fire, and they're all vaporized. All right? Another reason this is two separate battles. In Ezekiel, it also says, Ezekiel 39:9, let's read this. And they that dwell in the cities of Israel shall go forth and shall set a fire and burn the weapons, both the shields and the bucklers, the bows and the arrows and the hand staves and the spears, shall burn them with fire for 7 years, okay? So while they're burying bodies for 7 months, they're burning weapons for 7 years, okay? This time period, this is why people have believed for a long time, this needs to take place before the tribulation and stuff, because at the end of the millennium, nothing's getting burned, everything's getting created new again, all right? it's going to be totally refurbished, renewed. Heaven and earth are going to become one. And the whole thing's going to change, okay? But this 7 years, this speaks of another time. Could it be before the rapture? Could it be right at the start of the tribulation when the war happens? Maybe. We don't know exactly when that is, but it says they burn for 7 years. Let's hope it's not 3.5 years before the midpoint of the tribulation. So let's say the war happens now and the tribulation doesn't start for another 3.5 years, which would make it so they're burning them in the land technically, and then when they flee, it's already been done. I don't know about that. I hope not, because I'm ready for this thing to happen, you know. But only time will tell. We're waiting to see exactly what's going to happen. But anyways, 2 separate events here. Them burning the weapons for 7 years. It's not going to go for 7 years after God comes down. The whole thing's going to be done right there, and we're going to go into the final judgment, and then everything's going to be made new. We're going to go into the eternal state. All right. In Ezekiel 39, we're going to go here, 21, verses 21, 22. And I will set my glory among the heathen, and all the heathen shall see my judgment that I have executed, and my hand that I have laid upon them. So the house of Israel shall know that I am the Lord their God from that day forward. Okay? This, what happens here is this lesson to the heathen. They're sent with their tail between their legs to think about it, and it shows Israel, he's their God, he's going to be with them, and the heathen realize that there is no time to think about this during the Gog and Magog war in Revelations. They're consumed, the whole thing's done away with, okay? Yet again, 2 separate timelines here, 2 different wars altogether, all right? In 2014... this is a little personal story. In 2014, I was going through a rough time, really rough, and I was so frustrated. I was mad about a bunch of different things and stuff like that. Well, anyways, I went to go off by myself to this restaurant and get something to eat, and I'm mad. I'm frustrated, and I'm trying to talk to God about what the heck is going on here. And what happened was I was talking to him in my mind, and when I have daydreams, it's pretty vivid, but I decided to just, you know what, screw it, go along with it. I'm going to imagine him across talking to me, and I started talking to him, and this ended up turning into the most real situation ever. I don't think it was a daydream at all. I talked to him for, must have been 20 minutes or so. We were just talking about everything. He was straightening me out, and I felt 1,000 times better afterwards. It fixed me up. It's exactly what I need to happen. And I'm not going to get into that right now. It's kind of a personal story on the things that we were talking about and all the stuff taking place. But before he left, at the end, he stood up, and I wanted to know when the rapture was going to happen, but I knew if I asked him that, he would tell me soon. Because that's what he always says. It's going to happen soon, you know. He won't tell us exactly when it is. So I thought I'd get tricky, all right? And because I've always thought that the Gog and Magog war happens around the time of the rapture, the tribulation and stuff like that, I said, when's the Gog and Magog war going to happen, okay? He already knew it was on my mind and stuff anyways. Obviously, I'm not being tricky with him. But what he said was, right before he left, is it's happening right now. I have no idea what he meant by that. That was the last thing he said, all right? So I thought about it for the longest time. And then in 2015, you know, I found out that Israel found that oil in Golan Heights. And what happened was they hadn't been talking about anything like that. They only brought it in 2015, but I think that Russia and a whole bunch of other nations, they already knew about them finding it. And I think it has to do with the hook that gets put in their mouth in Ezekiel, which brings them into that battle of Gog and Magog. So that's one speculation. I don't know, but I think it's been taking place for a long time, and it's been prepping for it. So anyways, that's that story. So I really think it's close. All right. I'm going to read another one here. Ezekiel 39, let's see here, 23 through 25. And the heathen shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity for their iniquity, because they trespassed against me. Therefore hid I my face from them, and gave them into the the hand of their enemies. So fell they all by the sword. According to their uncleanness, according to their transgressions, have I done unto them, and hid my face from them. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, now will I bring again the captivity of Jacob, and have mercy upon the whole house of Israel, and will be jealous for my holy name. All right. This right here, I think, after this battle happens, he makes the point that he saves them. During this battle, he saves them. He throws fire, brimstone, rocks out of the sky. Totally annihilates the enemies of Israel during this Gog and Magog battle happened. But he says from this point on, he dwells with them. He brings them back to him. He lets them know they're going to be his people from this point on again. The time's up. It's done. This is interesting because it lines up with the church age being done. Israel's been set to the side for 2,000 years while he's worked with the Gentiles and everything else. We brought him back. He's hit them. But when he does this battle afterwards, he says that he dwells with them. He's back. There's people again. He shows them. They're going to know that he's God. He still loves them. And I think their eyes are going to be open. This really lines up with the church age ending, aka the rapture happening, and it going back to the 7 years Jacob's timeline, Jacob's trouble during the tribulation, where he works with Israel to refine them, show him that the Messiah's already came, he's there, brings in the two witnesses and stuff like this. This really lines up with these few verses right here, and I really think that this Gog and Magog war with those couple verses really points to this happening right around the time of the rapture, the church age ending, and the tribulation about to start. Okay. Another reason why we're taking a close look at this. Another thing is no one, it says that Israel has no allies in this war. And it says God uses it to show that he's in control. He takes care of the problem for him, but nobody comes. And some of them that aren't fighting against, they're discussing it. They're like, oh, why is this taking place? What, have you gone for a spoil, Well, this is interesting because in America, we support Israel, and there's tons of Christians in America that support it, Why aren't we helping them out? Could we be in a war? Possibly. Maybe North Korea, some sideshow thing that's taking place, or it has our attention. Maybe we're spread too thin. Or maybe the rapture's happened, Christians are gone, and there's no more support for Israel anymore. That's another possibility, too, just something I wanted to throw out there. We don't know, But I think there's enough points right there that I've made, that Ezekiel 38-39 battle of Gog and Magog is completely different than the one that happens in Revelations. All right, and there's nothing wrong with speculation. People have read it before, like I say, and they've written books and stuff. Of course, when you write a book, you're kind of hammered to it, changing up your ideas and make you look kind of bad. But it's the right thing to do. Anyways, the point is that these look like two separate battles that take place. I think it's clearly defined in the Bible that the Revelations, Gog and Magog, is completely separate from the one that happens in Ezekiel. The one in Ezekiel seems very reminiscent and close to the time of the church age ending, then the tribulation starting, especially with the weapons burning for 7 years and the 7-year tribulation and stuff like that. I think there's a huge correlation to it. So when we see Iran say that, hey, this is the Ezekiel war that's about to take place over here, and all the guys that are in it are lining up for it to happen over there. They're getting cocky. They're coming against Israel. They're putting their stuff in play, and we know that it's about to take off. We got World War III everywhere else going on, with the other signs of the tribulation, with economy crashes and stuff like that look like they're about to happen, and earthquakes all over the place, and how America's going to get it, which I believe is Mystery Babylon. It gets annihilated during the tribulation. It's really, really looking, and of course we also have the 70-year generation coming up here at the 70 years, the last generation here since Israel became a nation in May 1948. So that's coming up this May too. So when this stuff is lining up with that, and God's saying you'd see all these things happen first, it's very interesting because it looks like that's exactly what's happening. So these are exciting times, and I wanted to clarify this and kind of separate these two wars. I believe somebody asked in the comments, so this is a good topic to talk about, and anything that points towards the rapture about to happen, man, I'm totally on board with that. I love it. It's exciting. That's my favorite thing to talk about, and I hope this helps some people to distinctly point out, because there's people that have different ideas, and you go in, and there's a lot of people that say, no, it's just the same war happens at the end of the millennial. You don't have to worry about it. Well, actually, it's not. These are two different ones, and one of them looks like it's about to happen right now, which lines up with the tribulation about to start. We're definitely in the end times. These are exciting times. Keep looking up, and get ready, because your redemption draweth nigh. This is about to happen here pretty soon. So anyways, God bless, and we'll catch you next time on The Elysian. Thanks. Bye.